Hello everyone, it's Rob Freeman here. This is a story of a check that was written and it went through the whole banking system, yet it still remained in the checkbook. It's bizarre but true. And here goes with the story. So Marcus, Liz, and I were traveling. We're going to be traveling to Australia, and this is at the end of February of 2017. And Liz's rent was going to be due March 1st. So she made arrangements with her ex if he would go into her apartment on March 1st and go to the top dresser drawer, go to the checkbook and tear out the check for the rent and take it down to the landlord. So he agreed to do that, and we went off to Australia. And March 1st, he actually went in and he took the check and he went down to the landlord and paid it. The landlord wrote apartment 203 on the bottom, and he went, I guess, March 10th to the bank, the Ukrainian Credit Union in Toronto, one of them, and he presented it to the teller who deposited it to his account. She stamped 2 stamps on the back and wrote the account number and proceeded to deposit the check. And then the check was scanned and subsequently destroyed at a period of time after that. That's how the laws work in Canada, so that there's not reams of paper stored at the banks. And while we were in Australia, Liz checked to see if the money was taken out of her account, and yes, the landlord on March 10th, that was the date that he actually deposited, the money was taken out of the account, and that was great. She was happy. We had our expedition, we came back, and Liz had other payments to pay when she got home and checked her checkbook, and lo and behold, what was still in the checkbook but that check? So very confused, she called her ex and said, did you deposit this check? Did you give it to the landlord, and did he deposit the check? And he said yes. And Liz says, well, it's still in my checkbook. And he said, impossible, and hung up the phone. So this is really bizarre because, we racked our brains for every possible explanation, including duplicate checkbooks. And Liz says, no, she only has the one checkbook. And the check has the same number on it that's still in her book as the check went through the banking system, and it's, let me take a quick peek here, it's check number 008, and, totally bizarre. We can't understand how this could happen. And we started doing some research, and there is the existence of multiple timelines that physicists since the 1950s have been proposing, that the math proves this. The mathematics proves this, that there's an infinite number of timelines, and we're all in them. And they can run ahead of time. They can run, these parallel timelines can be behind time. They can be the same. They can be a little bit different. They can be a lot different. So we really don't know what's happened here. Liz and Marcus went to the bank, and they went to both banks actually. And the banks assured that this was a physical piece of paper that was deposited. They even gave Marcus and Liz a certified true copy signed that this is the check that was deposited. And they said it was a paper check because it was wet stamped on the back, and the teller wrote on it with the account number. The teller put their teller stamp on it, and it went through the banking system, but yet it's still in the checkbook. And I've gone myself to her apartment, and I've taken pictures of the check sitting still in the checkbook. We've gone to a forensic handwriting specialist, Dave Palachuk, actually, who works for MUFON. He's the chief investigator for Canada, and he looked at it. We had a blow-up copy, 8.5 by 11, of the actual check, and we have a blow-up copy, 8.5 by 11, of the check that went through the banking system. and he's looked at it. We've looked at it ourselves. We put both pieces of paper against the window, front and back, first one and then the other in front, and they're exactly the same check. It's exactly the same handwriting. And this is impossible. How could that be? But it's happened. And Dave has said that it's impossible that anybody could write a second check that would be exactly the same as this. It's just not possible. Humans can't do it. Some of the letters might be slightly bigger or slightly skewed, or the whole thing a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, some of the letters, some of the numbers. But this is exactly the same. Each check, each copy is exactly the same of the two. So he said it's not possible that it's two different checks. It's just impossible. They're exactly the same, right down to the pixels. So we have no explanation for this other than that somehow the timeline has split, and there's two timelines running now. There's a timeline where the check is still in the book, and there's a timeline where it was torn out, taken to the landlord, who took it to the bank, who deposited it, and where the teller scanned it, and it was subsequently destroyed, and the money was paid for her rent. So we have absolutely no explanation other than multiple timelines.